I have been waiting for this rematch for 12 years. Alex Botez was better than me back in 2012, where she had a FIDE rating of around 2070, and I only had a FIDE rating of 1900. Since 2012, I have won Canadian National Championships, I have won Canadian Women's National Championships. Anyways, I won World Youth, all these things, but I have not beaten Alexandra Botez. As you might know, I already have one foot out the door when it comes to classical chess. However, I wanted to satisfy my childhood dream, beating Alexandra. This is how the game went. So to start off, I've been prepping Alexandra's French defense, which she plays a lot of, and we have, I think, 178 games on chess.com together. So obviously we both knew what each other were going to play, hence why the opening was played fairly fast. After d5, knight to c3, knight to f6, I played e5, knight to d7, f4. This is all super theory. However, after move 7, bishop e7, I go queen to d2. She now plays b6. So looking through a couple of our games from the past, she hasn't really played this b6 move before, and instead she usually goes a6. Well, it is the French, so it is kind of difficult to, come up with some creative, insane new prep. So I wasn't too worried about the b6 move, but that being said, I don't think I played this very well. So I was looking at these knight to d1 ideas for the a6 line, but this is a slightly different position. I thought that there is nothing wrong with knight to d1. Apparently here though, bishop to b5 would have been potentially better, where if she goes bishop to b7, I can still castle long, and now I have a very pleasant position, which is something that I think I would have liked to play. However, I played knight to d1 with the intention of playing c3, really securing my center, and potentially also moving my knight over to f2 in the future. So after this, I thought my position was actually really good. And it would appear that the engine agrees with me until I play knight to f2. Instead of knight to f2, I think here I could have played pawn to c4, breaking open in the center immediately. If d takes c4, I have this really fun move with d5, and if e takes, I now have queen takes d5, and her pawns are all over the place, and on top of that, she cannot castle. Instead, I played a really boring move, knight to f2, probably a little too safe. So c4, I go pawn to h3 with the intention of playing g4 at some point, which I do. I think this middle part of the game, honestly, was not particularly interesting. I kept looking for ways to potentially break through. For example, here I thought about b3, but then I quickly realized after a4, if I play b takes c4, b takes c4, I don't really have anything to play for in this position other than control of this open file, which she is going to very quickly be like, nope. So I just kept shuffling my pieces around with queen to e2. Here I decided to play a4 because after rook takes a4, I thought that maybe this pawn could be potentially weak. And I also have pawn to b3 ideas. However, she plays rook to b6, and I'm sad, so I play rook b1, defending my b pawn. And I honestly was struggling to come up with an idea in this position. Here, after queen to d1, I was definitely thinking about queen to a5. I'm not sure why I didn't play g takes f5 immediately and queen to h5 and just play queen to h5. I must have saw some ghosts and decided to play knight to f1, which is very passive instead. Well, it goes back, so it's like, whatever. Knight to h1 though, also once again a little passive, could just take on f5, and I eventually do once she moves the rook over, and I play queen to h5. However, after queen to h5, her h-pawn is very well defended with the bishop from f8, and there's nothing that I can really do about that pawn, so I go queen to g6, knight to f2, a4, knight to d1, and I'm trying to defend my b pawn and move my rook over to c2, because if I move my rook, I would lose the b pawn. So instead, I play knight to d1, defending that. After queen to c6, I play rook to c1, rook b to b8. Now I go rook to c2, original idea, defending the pawn, and just move my knights over and my rook over and all that stuff. Like I said, I don't think this position was particularly interesting. However, it does get super interesting around these parts where after knight to c8, I play rook to a2, which is probably an inaccuracy. And here, instead of knight to d1, I should have played knight to d2.
Yeah, 91 is just too passive, and this is the issue, right? Hammer was talking earlier about frustrating your opponent, and because white is so limited.
Once again, kicking this rook away, but this part already gets a little dicey. Instead, I think what I should have done after knight to c8 is recognize the danger and play knight to d1. I did not recognize any danger. I played rook a2. I was like, there's no way I can possibly lose this game, right? And then after knight to d1, I go to the bathroom in a coughing fit, and she returns with knight to b4. Now, knight to b4 is a fascinating move because after c takes b4, which is force, basically, if I don't take it and play rook to a1, for example, knight to d3 ensures that I'm going to lose my b pawn at some point. So I wasn't really sure about that. So anyways, after rook b3, I play knight to d1, takes, rook takes f3, play bishop f2, hoping that she would take this pawn and then go bishop to e3. I think here she must have missed some moves because rook takes b4, sorry, bishop takes b4 is a little scary if rook to h6. She can simply play rook to d3, and I'm going to eventually drop like all my pawns and pieces and all that stuff. There's nowhere for my knight to go. If here she can take this, I don't really have a discover attack because of rook d2 attacking both the pieces. So if I go knight c2, for example, with this fork, she once again has rook to d2, and if I take the bishop, she takes my bishop. So all of this kind of sucked. So rook to b3, bishop to e1, rook to d3, knight to c3, knight up. This part I felt a little bit better about. I thought I had very good chances now to hold the position and potentially draw. But I played bishop to h6, which is inaccurate. So here apparently knight to c3 was good. I calculated this during the game. I was a little scared. So first of all, with rook d4, I have bishop to e3, and then I take the knight on b6. But I thought maybe rook to h4 would just defend this pawn, and then I would lose this pawn. But here it would appear that I have knight to e2, which defends this and defends b4, and this is a totally fine position for me once again. I, however, missed this move and play what I believe to be pretty intuitive, just taking the pawn on h6. So instead of taking my b pawn, I'm not sure what she saw here. Maybe she was a little afraid of rook to g7, which, funnily enough, after king to c6, knight to a7, rook takes a7, rook takes a7, rook takes d4. The engine puts this as better for black because she has an exchange up and two pawns. So I think that this was something that Alex could have played, but I also think that bishop to h6 is very intuitive. And also I have a lot of problems in this position with her rooks, being kind of close to my king and all that stuff. So I play rook d1 here, which I thought was very natural. I'm just trying to defend this to free up my knight. However, I get into a lot of trouble here with rook to g3, king to f2, rook to e3. I give this check, and then here it starts falling apart. What I could have maybe done instead is play knight to c7 and try to go for the e-pawn, but this was all very difficult to calculate with only 5 minutes left on the clock. The game gets more intense from here. After king to e7, rook to h7, king to f8, knight to c7. I'm just trying to go for the e6 pawn now, but it is a little late. And here she misses the win after I play rook to h4. She plays rook to e3. I get to king f1, and then rook to h3 actually puts this as a drawing position with rook h3. And then what's really important here is that if knight here, there is rook to f3, so I lose my knight. So I can't take that. But what I can play is king to e2, and apparently after rook to h2, I thought that I was going to lose this pawn and then she would promote. I can simply take on f4. And she does not have enough time to just promote these pawns. But anyways, I play rook g4, which is still fine. But then I play knight to f4, and this loses the knight. I actually calculated something super incorrect here. I saw that after rook to g1, rook here, king to e2, rook takes g1, my rook was still on g1 in my head. My rook was still on g1, so I still had knight to g6 with a check. Obviously, if I play knight g6, I'm losing the rook. I'm losing the knight. But yeah, anyways, this was what I saw, and I saw wrong. So instead of that, I could have simply played king to g1, once again, not letting her take any free pieces. If rook takes b2, I have knight to f4, and while this might look really scary for me, it is still a draw, according to the engine. So I messed up, but she actually manages to mess up as well in this endgame. So now she needed to play pawn to c3, which I actually thought was very intuitive. B takes, and then knight to c4, and she has this pawn which is going to be defended, and my pawn is not going to be fast enough to promote. Instead, she plays something a little bit more passive with knight to c8. I play rook a6, very intuitive. I'm just trying to take this pawn, and she goes knight to e7, which is still okay. But now, instead of taking my pawn on d4, she needed to play knight to f5, where if I play push, she gets to take d4 with a check. Obviously, we were both quite short in time, but Alex had 8 minutes, and I think knight f5 is absolutely something that she could have played. So I'm very glad that she took on d4, because now I get to push my pawn to b5. And then after pushing the pawn to b5, rook to e4, I managed to get the draw because her knight has to be given up for my passed pawn. And we just draw the game. This game actually ended up taking, I think, 6 hours. Yeah, this was a 6-hour draw. All right.
Nemo, what are you doing?
I'm actually filming the recap for our game.
For you.
Oh my god! Thank you! Thanks, Alex.
Bye, Nemo.
As you can tell, Alex and I are still on good terms, but I am determined to beat her. Alright, well, this was my last tournament ever until I have, I guess, another tournament. But honestly, I just wanted to do a little update for YouTube because I get asked about stuff a lot. I am here at the Botez house still. I've honestly been struggling with playing classical chess for a really long time, hence why I quit 2 years ago in the first place, and was honestly never really planning on coming back. But anyways, as you can tell, I'm currently in the house with the girl still. We just finished our tournament. The sun is setting in beautiful Malibu, and I feel like life has honestly been super interesting leading up to this moment, but it's honestly also been a little bit tough coming to the conclusion that maybe chess is not the right, game for me personally. And I think that's going to take a lot of time to adjust to. I just wanted to make this video, or just put this out there really quickly, letting you guys know that, yeah, things are hopefully going to move in a better direction. I'm honestly quite disappointed with my performance this tournament. I feel like it could have been a lot better, but also at the same time, I think it's very unhealthy to have expectations when you don't really play chess, at least like seriously at all, which I have not been doing for the last 4 years, and instead I just play online all the time. Classical chess, definitely not my format, and I knew that going to this tournament. I thought I would be mentally a little bit stronger and I'd be able to handle it a lot better, but obviously, as you can tell, it didn't really go that way. Either way, I'm still okay with some of the results I had. I held Jen to a draw in the very first game, and I thought that it would go like amazing after that. I felt like I was in form, and I was trying to tell myself that I was in form, but it was very obvious that I was not. But anyways, that's just part of life.